Story 1. The Bear in the Black of Night. The summer of 2023 was my breaking point. My father's death in March, followed by a brutal layoff in May, left me feeling like a ghost in my own life. I needed to escape, to find something solid to hold on to, so I drove 6 hours from Seattle to a remote corner of Olympic National Forest, a place I'd camped since I was a kid. The familiarity of the towering pines, their needles carpeting the earth, and the sharp scent of sap felt like a promise of healing. I chose a secluded spot by Lost Creek, a small clearing where the stream's gentle gurgle blended with the rustle of ferns in the breeze. I pitched my faded green tent, its nylon worn from years of use, and hung my bear bag high on a sturdy hemlock, double-checking the knots as the ranger's warnings echoed in my mind. My campfire was modest, just enough to boil water for instant coffee, its flames casting flickering shadows that danced on the mossy ground. The stars were out that night, sharp and endless, piercing the canopy above, and for a few hours I felt a flicker of peace, sipping bitter coffee as the fire crackled. I crawled into my sleeping bag around 10 p.m., lulled by the embers' glow and a distant owl's hoot, thinking maybe I could rebuild myself here. But at 2:17 a.m., the glowing digits of my watch burned into my memory. I woke with a jolt, my heart hammering before I even registered why. A sound, heavy and wrong, cut through the night. Not the skitter of a raccoon or the delicate step of a deer, but a deliberate crunch, like boots grinding gravel, just beyond the fire's ashen remains. My breath caught, shallow and sharp as I lay frozen, every nerve screaming to stay still. Then came the huff, a low, wet exhalation, like air forced through a bellows, vibrating through the ground into my bones. I'd heard that sound in ranger talks, read it in guidebooks. A black bear, and it was close, too close. The rustling grew louder, a slow, predatory rhythm circling my camp, each snap of a twig a needle in my spine. My tent felt like a paper coffin, its thin nylon trembling with my shaking hands as I fumbled for my flashlight and bear spray, the canister cold and slick with sweat. I unzipped the mesh window a fraction, my breath hitching, and aimed the beam into the dark. 2 amber eyes flashed back, glowing like embers in a furnace, not 10 feet away. The black bear was massive, its fur matted with mud and pine needles, its head swaying like a pendulum as it sniffed the air with a low, guttural snort. The smell hit me, musky, primal, like wet earth and raw meat, filling my lungs until I gagged. I'd followed every rule: food sealed in a bear bag, trash burned to ash, no scented soaps or deodorant. But then it hit me, a sickening realization. I'd handled the bear bag after cooking sausages, my fingers greasy with fat, leaving a trail of scent no knot could hide. The bear lumbered toward the hemlock, rearing up to claw at the bag, its bulk shaking the tree with a thud that echoed in my chest. Claw marks gouged the bark, deep and ragged, and the rope creaked, fraying under its weight. My heart was a drum, each beat screaming run, but I knew running was death. The bear dropped to all fours, its head swinging toward my tent, and I swear its eyes locked onto mine, seeing through the mesh to the fear pooling in my gut. I sprayed the bear spray, a desperate cloud hissing into the night, but a gust of wind betrayed me, blowing it back into my face. My eyes burned, my throat seized, tears streaming as I choked on the acrid mist. The bear snorted, unfazed, and began pawing at the tent, its claws tearing the nylon with a sound like ripping flesh, each rip a violation of my fragile sanctuary. Its massive head thrust inside, jaws snapping inches from my legs, teeth glinting in the moonlight, saliva dripping onto my sleeping bag. I screamed, a raw animal cry, and threw my flashlight, hitting its snout with a dull thunk. It reared back, snarling, its breath hot and foul, and I scrambled out the back flap, tripping over roots, my hands scraping bloody against jagged rocks. I crouched in the dark, certain it would charge, my pulse a deafening roar in my ears. It didn't. Dawn revealed a camp in ruins, tent shredded, cooler gouged with claw marks, my sleeping bag soaked with my own sweat and terror. I hiked out, legs trembling, the forest's beauty now a mask for danger. Every night since, I waked to that huff, those eyes, the certainty I was prey. Story 2. The Pack at Dusk. Last October, I wanted to share the Smoky Mountains with Sarah, my girlfriend of 2 years, to show her the wild that had been my refuge since childhood. She was a Chicago girl, raised on concrete and neon, but her trust in me was unshakable when I promised the mountains would steal her heart. We hiked 5 miles into the backcountry, far from Gatlinburg's crowded trails, to a clearing cradled by ancient oaks and maples, their leaves a fiery mosaic of gold and crimson. The air was crisp, scented with damp earth, pine, and the faint rot of fallen leaves, and Sarah's laughter as we pitched our blue dome tent felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. The first day was perfect. We splashed in a cold creek, her boots slipping on mossy rocks, her eyes bright with wonder as she marveled at the forest's quiet beauty. We cooked dinner over a small fire, the smell of sizzling bacon mingling with wood smoke, and I felt like I was giving her a piece of my soul. But on the second night, as dusk bled red and amber into the sky, the forest turned sinister. The crickets' hum and whippoorwills' calls stopped abruptly, replaced by a stillness so heavy it pressed against my eardrums, like the air itself was holding its breath. Sarah noticed it first, her smile fading, her hand tightening on my wrist as she scanned the tree line, her voice barely a whisper. "It's too quiet." I tried to laugh, blaming a passing storm, but my skin prickled, my gut twisting with a primal unease I couldn't shake. We were roasting hot dogs, the flames casting long, twitching shadows, when a growl sliced through the dusk, not a coyote's high yip, but a deep, throaty rumble, like the earth snarling from its core. Sarah froze, her hot dog falling into the fire with a hiss, the charred meat's acrid smell sharp in the air. I grabbed my flashlight, my hand steadying her trembling one, and swept the beam across the trees. Eyes glowed back, 12, maybe 15, glinting like shards of broken glass, belonging to a pack of coyotes, their bodies lean, ribs jutting under patchy, burr-matted fur, their silhouettes sharp and ravenous. I shouted, banging our aluminum pots together, expecting them to scatter like the skittish coyotes I'd seen on other trips. They didn't. Instead, they fanned out, their growls weaving into a chilling symphony, circling our camp with a predator's precision, their movements synchronized like a machine built to hunt. Sarah's breath came in short, panicked gasps, her nails digging into my arm, drawing blood as she whispered we should hide in the tent. I shook my head, my voice low and hoarse, telling her tents were no shield against teeth like those. The lead coyote, larger than the rest, its fur patchy with mange, stepped forward, its lips curled back to reveal teeth that gleamed like knives in the firelight, its eyes feverish with hunger. My heart pounded so hard I felt dizzy, my mind flooded with stories of coyote attacks, rare but brutal, packs tearing into livestock, pets, anything weak or alone. I sprayed our bear spray, the acrid mist stinging my eyes and throat, burning my lungs as I coughed. But it only made them pause, their growls deepening into a drone that vibrated in my chest, a sound that felt like it was clawing at my soul. Sarah was sobbing now, her fear a mirror to my own, and guilt crashed over me like a wave. I'd brought her here, promised safety, and now we were prey. I lit a flare from our emergency kit, its red glare casting grotesque shadows, the light twisting their forms into something almost demonic. I waved it, shouting until my throat was raw, my voice cracking into desperate pleas. The pack hesitated, but the leader lunged, its jaws snapping at my calf, tearing my jeans and grazing my skin with a hot, searing pain that burned up my leg, blood trickling warm against my ankle. I swung the flare, connecting with its flank, and it yelped, a sharp, piercing sound that cut through the night as it bolted into the dark, the others following with howls that faded like ghosts, echoing long after they were gone. We sat back to back by the fire's dying embers, clutching the flare, jumping at every rustle, every snap of a twig, Sarah's sobs mingling with my ragged breaths, my hands shaking as I bandaged my leg with a torn shirt. Dawn revealed paw prints circling our camp, too many to count, some pressed so deep they looked carved into the earth, and a tuft of coarse fur snagged on a thorn, stiff with dried blood. Whether mine or theirs, I couldn't tell. We hiked out, Sarah's silence heavy with betrayal, her eyes avoiding mine, my guilt a weight I'll carry forever. The woods, once my sanctuary, now feel like a trap, those glinting eyes still burning in my nightmares, waiting for me to return. Story 3: The Mountain Lion's Shadow. In June 2024, I needed to escape a life unraveling from a bitter divorce and a career stuck in neutral. The San Juan Mountains in Colorado promised solitude at 10,000 feet, where the air was thin and the views endless, a place to stitch myself back together. I hiked 7 miles alone, my pack heavy with supplies, my boots crunching on rocky trails lined with pines and aspen, their leaves shimmering in the afternoon sun. My campsite was a rocky alcove, the ground hard but the air sharp with the scent of resin and earth, a small fire pit already there from some long-gone camper. The first night was serene. The wind whispered through the trees, an owl's call echoed across the valley, and the stars burned bright above the jagged peaks, their light cold and unyielding. I sipped whiskey from a battered flask, the burn in my throat grounding me as my campfire popped, its warmth a small defiance against the mountain chill. I felt like I'd claimed a private corner of the world, a place where I could shed the weight of the past year. But on the second night, the forest turned hostile. The chatter of nocturnal creatures, crickets, frogs, the rustle of small mammals, stopped abruptly, leaving a silence so thick it pressed against my eardrums, heavy as a physical weight. Then came a sound, a low, guttural cough, like a muffled engine from the ridge above my camp. My blood froze, my pulse spiking as I recognized it from ranger warnings. A mountain lion, one of the Rockies' silent stalkers. I'd camped here before, read about their elusive nature, but I'd never seen one, never felt their presence. I grabbed my flashlight, my hands slick with sweat, the metal cold against my palm, and scanned the darkness. A flash of movement, a tawny tail, sleek and sinuous, vanishing behind a boulder, its curve catching the moonlight like a blade. My heart slammed against my ribs, my breath shallow and ragged as I realized I was alone, miles from help, with a predator watching me from the shadows. I stood, shouting into the night, banging my pot with a spoon, trying to make myself big, my voice echoing off the rocks but sounding small against the vastness of the mountains. The coughing came again, closer, from the opposite side of the camp, a deliberate shift that sent a chill down my spine. I spun, my flashlight trembling in my grip, and there it was, a mountain lion, crouched low on a ledge, its eyes like twin moons reflecting my beam, its body a coiled spring of muscle and menace. Its fur rippled over sinew, every line screaming power, its tail twitching like a metronome counting down to violence. I yelled louder, my voice cracking, raw with panic, but it didn't move, just stared, its gaze stripping away my courage, pinning me like prey. I backed toward my tent, my boots crunching on gravel, each step deliberate as I fought the urge to run, knowing it would trigger a chase I couldn't win. I tripped over a root, falling hard, my flashlight skittering into the dirt, its beams spinning wildly, casting jagged shadows. The lion moved, a blur of lethal grace, its paws silent on the earth, closing the distance in a heartbeat. I scrambled up, spraying bear spray blindly, the acrid cloud choking me, burning my eyes and throat as I coughed, my vision blurring. The lion snarled, a sound that clawed at my soul, its teeth flashing as it lunged, stopping just short of my legs, its breath hot and rank, smelling of blood and wildness. I swung my knife, useless in my shaking hand, its blade glinting weakly in the moonlight. The lion vanished into the shadows, but I felt its presence, circling, waiting. I spent the night in my tent, knife clutched, every rustle a threat, every gust of wind its breath on my neck. I didn't sleep, my body rigid, my mind replaying that snarl, those eyes, the way its muscles flexed with intent. Dawn revealed tracks circling my camp, claw marks gouged deep into a pine, and a patch of blood on a rock. Mine. From a scrape on my elbow I hadn't noticed in my panic, the skin torn and raw. I broke camp, my hands trembling, my pack heavier with fear than supplies, the mountain's beauty now a cruel facade. The hike out was a blur, my eyes darting to every shadow, my ears straining for that cough. The Rockies, once my refuge, are now a place of dread, those unblinking eyes still haunting my dreams, watching, waiting for me to step back into their domain.